I'm standing at Vancleave High School, what some would say is an epicenter for the history and culture of our town and our community of Vancleave. And I sat down with Mr. Thomas Slade to learn about that history and see how the town has grown.
Thank you, Mr. Slade, for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to tell us a little bit about the history of Vancleave. For starters, what was the starting point for the town?
There were two families, the Wares and the Havens, that came up Bluff Creek to Poticaw and the landing there, and they developed a settlement, did some farming. Charcoal was a very big, important industry in the area because there's hills and hollows and hillsides, and you make a charcoal kiln just about anywhere. And the wood in the area is perfect for that. And at one time, Vancleave was called the charcoal capital of the world. Wow. They would produce it, take it down to the barge landing there behind the baseball stadium, and load it on schooners, take it out down the river.
So at the time, charcoal was this huge industry.
Mm-hmm.
That was around the time of industrialization, correct? So there was a lot of transporting back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that was how Vancleave sort of came onto the map and made its place in America and in Mississippi.
That's right. It was originally called the Bluff Creek Community.
Oh, okay.
And then in 1876, a merchant from Ocean Springs named Robert Adrian Vancleave moved out here, got the job as postmaster, opened a post office, general store, and hotel, and the community bore his name from that point forward.
Oh, very interesting. So, fast forwarding a little bit to about present day. Of course, we're not a charcoal producing community anymore. What would you say, other than that, is the biggest change that you've seen in the people?
Well, from my childhood onward up until just a few years ago, paper companies raised the type of pine trees that they needed for producing paper on land north of here, between here and the George County line. And that land was leased at the same time by hunters, and the paper companies have since stopped doing that by and large. And so a lot of that land has become available for development. And after Hurricane Katrina, a lot of people who lost their homes closer to the water moved north, and so we've had an influx of people that's caused the community to grow somewhat.
So you would say that recently Vancleave has, is it safe to say, urbanized more than ever?
In the last 10 to 15 years, yes, absolutely.
That's very interesting. So would you feel that the changes from back then to now have had positive influences on the land, the people, anything like that, the mixing of the communities? How do you feel about the changes?
Well, urbanization has its drawbacks in any case, because the more people you have, the more chance of bad things happening. It's just a natural part of being human. And there are people who don't like all of the change that has occurred, because more people means change, and more people means traffic, more people means more problems and things like that. On the other side of the token, especially from the perspective of the schools, it means more opportunities for kids, because a larger school population opens the doors for more programs, more different types of activities that can get more students involved. We've had choir off and on throughout the years, and now we have a very strong choir program. The band's going well. You know, we've had a championship baseball team, championship volleyball teams. Our basketball teams and football teams have gone to the playoffs. That used to never happen. And so, you know, the growth has had its positive impacts as well. And I think as far as our community is concerned right now, the positives far outweigh the negatives.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Slade. This was an extremely interesting talk with you. I'm glad to learn about some of the history behind the town and the big changes as far as urbanization and things like that go. So again, thank you, and thank you for being such a phenomenal teacher.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate it, and anytime I can help, I'm glad to.
All right. Thank